G'day legends, g'day superstars. It's Peps and the draft professor, Tommy Rampaging Roker. We're here to have a bit of a chat about how do we get here? What do I mean? Well, we've got the draft coming up in a week or so, but what a lot of teams have done before actually drafting and who they're looking into have put themselves in a position to absolutely dominate the draft, whether it's this year or next year. Is it players? Is it points? We're going to cover it all. Every single team from Adelaide to West Coast, you name it, we are going to cover it. Like I said, I've got the draft professor with me, the great man. He's been a friend of the podcast for many, many years. I know him as Tommy Roker. You know him as the draft professor. How are you, champion? It is, I would say, draft. Trading time is clubs like mine, Melbourne, their grand final time. This is your grand final time. This is when we talk about all the points, the picks, the players, who they're going for, and what they're looking at. But before we get into that, why have clubs put themselves in the position? You love talking about this stuff.
Oh, yeah, mate. Look, first of all, the spectre of Tassie, if they build their stadium, it makes draft picks worth more or less depending on who you are. There are clubs who are going to be very vulnerable to Tassie if they're not going so well. There are clubs who did heaps in the trading period in terms of bringing people in. They're not going to be able to bring many more in the draft. There are people who moved a lot of people on and will need to bring people in via all of the mechanisms, Peps, because this draft period, it just doesn't seem to be rated as highly as previous ones. But who knows? Clubs can rate someone 10th best in the draft, and the next club down the road rates them not even draftable. It really depends, Peps. There could be 60 kids. It could be 50 kids getting their names called out.
Yeah, I reckon, look, mate, I say it this way, right? Let's call a spade a spade. If you get drafted, you can play AFL. Simple as that. It comes down to how the development is with the club and the mindset of the kid coming through. Now, regardless if they're picked at number 1 or picked number 50, you get picked up, you can play. And then it's in the hands of the kids and the clubs to make the most of it. And we've seen many, many first rounders go completely nowhere, and we've seen so many late picks absolutely dominate, win Brownlows, win premierships, etc. So it's not always about the diamonds on the ring; it's the diamonds in the rough as well too. And that's why this draft is so important. When they say that, well, there's not much talent. Well, I think there is talent. Maybe the high end and the number of high-end draft picks. But once we said they're just picks, it's all speculative. Some clubs love drafting. Some kids want to go the players route. And that's why we want to talk about this, is because we have a draft coming up. But you've got to factor in, it's not just who they've brought in and who they've let go of. It's where have they positioned themselves in the ranking order. And we've still got some time before it all kicks in a week or so as well. Got to remember, clubs can still shift around draft spots, and there's live trading on the night as well too. So if a player that they want doesn't fall into place, they can then get rid of that pick and move it to next year if they're able to find a buyer. If somebody's still on the board and they want to pick them up, they can do a bid to move up the board as well too. So there is still a lot to be played. But where we're sitting right now, we're just going to have a bit of a pick about it. All right, let's start off with the Adelaide Crows. Now, mate, you're going to have to go into this for me, because I look at Adelaide and they lost a bit of experience. Yeah. Lost some kids. Their draft picks, they got one first rounder at 16, then they go to 48, and then they got picks. That's about it. So they've got crumbs at the bottom of the biscuit barrel. They don't have any good taste and bickies to snack on draft night. So I don't know what they're going to do. And when you consider what they were supposed to deliver during the final series this year, the three-headed monster got absolutely obliterated. I really hope that they've got something sitting underneath, or they've got their plans for bringing somebody in, because Adelaide need a little bit more, and I don't know where they're going to get it from. And so I don't know what they've done during trade period and what they're looking forward to in a week's time.
Well, Peps, there's two things I'll say to that. One is it's almost no rank and no Crows, like it was no Carey, no Roos back in the day.
Yep.
Not quite, but almost. But yeah, that was when that happened. I think I said to you, the Crows are gone. And they were. So the other thing is they've seemed to have done nothing in this period except for get a kid, a B grader, or not even a B grader, a VFL player from North Melbourne, Finbar Maley.
Yep.
But what they did was they won the race to a basketball junior who, you know how if they leave footy for 3 years, you can list them as a Category B as an 18-year-old. Indy Cotton, his name is. 8 clubs were after him, Melbourne and the Suns included. His old man played 4 games in Port Adelaide's very first season in the AFL. His old man's been a great coach. He's been an assistant coach, head coach in the Sandful. He's currently the Suns Academy coach, and we all know what the Suns Academy have produced this year. So,
and no relation to Bryce Cotton in the NBL either.
I don't think so, but maybe it could be.
Well, that's what people think. A basketball rookie, Bryce Cotton, he's a bit of a gun. Kid's going to be a gun. Good work, Adelaide. So you reckon just this guy coming in is going to make a difference for them, maybe not next year, but a couple of years down the track?
Well, recruiters have said that he is first-round talent, but he doesn't have to go in the draft. So they've got him as a Category B rookie.
Yep.
It's not breaking news, Peps, but if people didn't know it, they do now. And they are going to relist re-rookie Tyler Welsh, who I was really big on last year. And he's also a father-son, although Indy Cotton's not technically a father-son. And his old man played for Port. And so he's gone to the enemy. But Peps, those as we look at them, I don't trust that. I think there'll be some movement at the station, and Adelaide will look to get up that draft board a bit. And they may even come back a little bit from 16 in order to get a few picks in the 20s or something. You got to remember, Peps, the picks now are not going to look like that when the first draft pick is made, and then all night they're going to change and chop around and you name it. It's all going to happen, but that's not what we're here to talk about today.
No, hey, look, can I just say something? We want to talk about draft integrity, etc. It's been done to death. But one thing that grinds my gears, bites my chomper, everything, this whole thing about getting rid of players who have come on board and we're putting them on the rookie list, that is one thing the AFL need to clear up. You should not be allowed to do it. It is a fast. The rookie list should be for people who have never played or played maybe that they've played VFL or that just done nothing. You can't go putting someone like, as an example, a Luke Dunstan on the rookie list. It's not designed to do that. I don't know why they do it. It frees up a spot. I don't either just make the lists 45 players as an example, and you don't have any rookies, you don't have any of that stuff. You just have what it is, or you make it hard and fast. You can't, have your cake and eat it too. You can't be half pregnant. And I think at the moment the AFL are making that rule a bit half pregnant. It's not
supposed
right
to be. We have our player who we are definitely going to re-rookie. It's meant to be, we're delisting this guy, and he's out there on what the NFL would call the waiver wire, and anyone who's in position to pick him up can. It's just that for some reason nobody does. I mean, we had Hugh Greenwood get picked up here.
That's the only one.
And last year, just low-key, in the rookie draft, the Gold Coast picked up young Max Noble from Freo, who were intending on re-rookieing. So let's see more of that, and then we'll see probably less of that, if you're following.
I'd love it. I'd love it if someone just pinched one of these absolute guns from them. But you know what? You want to talk about clubs pinching guns? Oh, Brisbane Lions. Now, how does a team go back-to-back and then this year bring in Oscar Allen, free agent? We won't talk about that. And they bring in Sam Draper. They did lose a bit. McInerney, he retired. Robertson, Brendan Starcevich obviously went to West Coast. But they haven't lost a lot, but they've gained a fair bit. They're going to be all-powerful. They've got their eyes on a young kid in Ben Murphy, category B rookie. So all I'm saying is that whoever they decide to pick up, and they've just set themselves up for the now, they're in a great spot.
They're playing 4D chess again. They've got a top 5 academy boy, Daniel Annable, and they've got a mid-round, a guy who's going to eat up all the rest of their picks, and they're resting Lincoln McCarthy. So that's them. Good night, Irene. It'll all be Lions. They'll be. They're not even trying to compete. I don't know who's going to beat them. I'm looking at them right now, and I just do not know who's going to get near them. I said this last year that, okay, they've won it, that's it. But after watching them in that grand final, they were amazing, and they had a lot of players out still coming back from injury. And you don't.
And they lose a ruckman, and they bring in Oscar, they bring in Draper, and they've, I just think that they're primed. again for
Just
the
wanted to
three-peat.
say that they lose their best ruckman in the last 5 years. Their backup ruckman's no slouch. They bring in Sam Draper. Then the AFL changes the ruck rules to make it more beneficial for guys like Draper.
Who can jump?
And because of the 5-man bench, Darcy Ford will be sitting on that 5-man bench, and they'll trot him out every time they need him. So their double ruck, dual ruck strategy is going to come back. You know, they're well placed.
It's going to come back.
Placed. Look, I asked Google Gemini who was going to win, and they just said, "Oh yeah, Brisbane." But there's hot news off the press. This is a scoop. The AFL have announced that they're changing. You know how they have the top 6, middle 6, and bottom 6? How that goes into the formula to make the schedule. They're going to make a couple of teams up the top play 4 top 6 teams twice. Now,
yeah, I think that should be the way it is.
And it should be the Brisbane Lions and the Gold Coast Suns, because that just seems very AFL. The Premiers and the Suns are just making up the numbers. So that's what I think will happen. I hope it's the grand finalists instead, because that just makes it tougher. But you know who had the hardest draw this year, Peps? The
Gold Coast
Lions had the hardest. Yeah. That's why they had such a rough start.
And they peaked at the right time. Doesn't matter what you do. You at the start sets you up, and the back end you solidify it, and they did what they had to do. It's going to be scary. This is, I reckon, one of the most interesting clubs I'm looking at right now, the Carlton Blues, because I don't know where I don't know who they are right now. I don't know where they sit. They've brought in some niceness. So they've made some trades in, which is really good. Ainsworth coming in, Florent coming in, Haywood. Really like those 3 coming in. Okay. They also brought in Chesso, which I saw live, and he can play as well. They've lost a little bit. Yes, they've lost Curnow. Yes, they've lost De Koning. They've lost Doherty. Durden's gone to Port Adelaide. Fantasia's gone, and Jack Silvani, Elijah Hollands. So I reckon what they've brought in almost to a degree compensates what they've got out to a degree. Almost. They've got their eyes on Harry Dean as well. So they needed to restock and probably look at the way that they play a little bit differently. And there's another team that we're going to talk about had to modify the way that they've been playing. So that's why they got rid of some. They got their eyes on points, wasn't it? That's what they needed. They needed points for this draft coming up.
And an early pick. So they've got a bit of mucking around to do. But how's this for Manifest Destiny, Peps? The Carlton Father-Son Academy is called the Peter Dean Father-Son Academy.
Yep.
Harry is his son. 2-time Blues flag winner, Peter Dean, runs this academy for the day that the golden child will be. And he's top 5. He could have his name called out. Anyone who's got the smallest grudge against Carlton, and let's face it. I would
call it. Clubs don't do enough of it.
Like Richmond, Essendon, one of them's going to bid on him for sure.
Clubs do not do it enough, Tommy. They need to bid early with these guys and make these clubs chew up their points. They're too nicey. Everybody's got to line up for the Guard of Honour. Bullshit. I'm sorry, that's a load of crap. Bid on the kid, make him chew up the points, because you know what? The way this thing is now is not fair. We've spoken about this many times. It's not fair. No. So clubs need to be, okay, let's be a bit more ruthless with this. That's a perfect example of it as well too. They're going to pick up a kid. They're going to get, now they've got the points for Dean. They've got 9 and 11. Is there a chance that they might use those?
Nah, they'll shift them back, and what they'll end up with is picks in the late teens, early 20s.
Yep.
And the first 2 of those will get chewed up, and then they'll have a reasonably high pick, and then they might even position themselves to jump back into the first round. But it's not that they're looking for. What Carlton also did was they traded into the future with the Curnow trade, so that they could have 2 first-round picks to match young Walker, who's touted to be a number 1. And next year, under the new rules, you've got to have 2 picks. Well, no, it's not even that. It's you've only got 2 picks to match that bid. So if Carlton come, 4th last, they get pick 4, and that won't be enough to match it. But then they've got another pick attached to Sydney that might be pick 10. Well, that should be enough to match anything. But if Sydney win the comp,
yeah, they're going to have to do something more. And I agree. I think the clubs need to pay more for these kids. They shouldn't be getting a discount. They should be paying more for them. That's the way, in my opinion. I think they're doing it completely wrong. And then clubs would really have to decide which ones they want to keep instead of going, I think they should be paying more. I don't know how much more, 20%, 25%. I'm not too sure. But I think if you really want them, you should have to pay a premium on the first one.
Well, they are.
A less premium on the second one. And then, yep.
They are this year paying a lot more than they were last year. And there's 4 of them in the top 6 or 8 picks. So there will be the Lions and the Suns and the Blues will be paying top dollar, and then there's a bit of then it'll be pure draft for a while, but there'll be more disruptions, and the first round's going to go until Tuesday morning. So
can I ask a question, mate?
Yeah.
What are Collingwood doing? Because I look at what they've done. Collingwood are normally really good through that trade period in bringing in players from other clubs, etc. They brought in Jack Buller from Sydney. That's it. Lost Brody Mychek, which I absolutely staggered why they moved him on. He's been their leading goal kicker for goodness knows how many years since except for Jamie. Jamie Elliott goes down. They've got no forward line. That's the way that I look at it, really. I just don't understand what they are trying to do here. They've got no high-end draft picks. They didn't bring anybody in. I don't think that they're going to be able to pick up anyone in terms of academies, etc. This cliff that we've been talking about, Collingwood hitting and falling over, it could potentially happen this year.
Yeah,
in 2026.
They do have some kids who are linked to them, but they're late. Like Tommy McGuan. So his old man was a flag, hero.
Yep.
But they decided not to nominate him. And it doesn't matter what he wants. They've just said, it doesn't matter if you've gone to bed in your bloody Collingwood pajamas for your entire life.
We're not taking him.
Vickies, we've got bigger fish to fry. They've got 6 list spots to fill, Peps, and I don't think they're going to fill more than 2, maybe a couple at the rookie. But then again, you've got all these mechanisms these days. You've got the SFP after the rookie draft. You've got
pre-season draft.
Category B, if you've got room in there, so you can get an Irish rookie or American rookie or whatever. And then
mid-season draft. Yeah, they got plenty to play with, haven't they?
They could do that, and then of course leaving spots open for the mid-season draft, which if they're not going so well, they could be picking up some real gold diamonds in the rough. So that's a real gambler's kind of strategy, but it seems to be one that Collingwood's pretty good at identifying the talent in that way, because they have got some, like Mychek himself was that kind of roughie.
And a big shout out to my mate Richie Little, who's on the drafting and the recruiting team as well too. So good luck for your big show next week as well too. I'm not convinced at the moment. I'm just not convinced. Yes, they've got some guns, young kids who can play, but I'm not worried about them. I'm worried about the older brigade. And I'm talking about your side bottoms and your Pendleburys and your Howes. Like we saw them starting to fall apart at the back end of last year, and they've gone with them again. Fortunately, run to the well too many times, it's going to run dry. And I think it's going to run dry. Now, this is a fascinating group, Essendon, because you've said here that they will have the youngest list apparently next year by the time everything comes in. They've got a stack of young kids coming through potentially in the draft. So they set themselves up really well because, yes, they did get rid of some players. They did get rid of Draper, Goldstein. But you have a look at some of the experience they got rid of. Goldstein, Hobbs, Laverde, Lululemon, Lowell, Jai Menzies, Setterfield, Shield. So they got rid of a fair bit. Not all of them were in the top 10 to 12 players. So they were that middle to low end. But who they're bringing in, they got the points for them, which is really what they were aiming for during that draft period. Was we need the points for Swade, El Houli. We need them, and they've also got picks 5 and 6, which is obviously one of ours from when the D's gave it to them last year. We used it to pick up Lindsay, so we're not too phased about that. But yeah, they're doing it the right way, and didn't trade, and they brought in Fiorini, and they didn't get rid of Merritt. So they played their cards to their chest. I think they should have moved Merritt on. They're going to make the same mistake Melbourne did 12 months ago with Oliver / Petrarca. And they won't get the same offer. Yep.
Well, look, I mean, the merit thing kind of, shrouded everything that Essendon did, which wasn't too much in the end. And the fact that they lost Draper to free agency and then they didn't actually get such a good compensation for it as they thought they were going to get. They thought they were getting pick 7. And they didn't end up getting that. So Brisbane aren't actually paying him very much, which kind of sucks for the Bombers. But then again, they have benefited from it in the past, and there is with Draper's age and the size of the contract, he's not really going for money. He's going for success. But the thing that really it was such a head scratcher for me was Braden Fiorini, right? He played most 21 games. He's a solid B grader. He played finals for the Suns, and he's a free agent, but they can't let him go in free agency. They have to They have to take a trade. Well, why? Why isn't he just out there in free agency? Why can Essendon say, "Oh no, we'll trade you, but we're going to trade you, pick 75 instead of." I can't remember what he got. It was late. Whereas I would have thought he would have been second round compo.
Well, that's why they didn't want to. They did it so they didn't. So whatever they got for Draper didn't get watered down. That was why
they get to choose that, and the Gold Coast has to cop it. And it's happened with other.
Well, Gold Coast agreed to it. But they obviously didn't want him either. And so they thought, well, we get something for him which we can use in picks, and we can use that for what we decide to do. Yeah. But, they're going to pick up a gun kid early. They'll pick up another gun kid a couple of picks later. And then moving on from there, they'll have the opportunity to pick up a couple of people on their academy list, which I've met both these kids, and they are absolutely quality individuals. So I think Essendon, they're going through a lot of pain at the moment. They're looking, we'll have our discussion after the draft is done, but I really think that they're setting themselves up nicely. Should they have pulled the trigger on merit?
Yep. Start again.
I think they should have because is he going to be part of the next premiership team? No. So I know you can, I know they basically say, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything, which is what they did. But sometimes bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, and maybe they should have looked, I get it, but we could have done something, I think, with Hawthorn to get something back for him, because they won't get a draft hand they won't get an offer, potentially, again, for merit. He'll probably win their best and fairest again, and then he'll want out again.
Yeah. Well, you've got to admire the putting it, basically putting the flag in the sand and saying,
yep,
this is the line. You can get four first rounders still won't get you this guy. They were not going to get 4 first rounders. They were lucky to get 2 first rounders for him, to be honest. The Hawks were disrespectful, and they screwed the pooch. And you have to wonder if they were all really behind it, if they really wanted it, or if they were just stirring things up. I don't know, because the Hawks.
I wouldn't have been surprised they were behind it until they got found out, and then they didn't want to be part of it.
Yeah, true. One thing I will say, Peps, is that these picks, 5, 6, 21, 27, 30, none of them will be in the same spot, is my prediction. I feel like they're going to make a big dive for one of Richmond's picks.
Yes.
And then or even West Coast pick that 5 and 6 could get pick 2 and a later pick, and then mixing up 26, 27 and 30, and West Coast got a bunch of picks. They could scramble all those picks up and end up with a real win-win for both clubs, because what West Coast needs is lots of early picks.
Well, that's the way that I look at it.
He needs 5 18-year-olds.
Yep.
I think maybe they need 3 18-year-olds.
Well, I reckon what they're going to do is if they know they can get CDT, they will put that to West Coast and say, listen, if you're not going to take him, we'll take him. We'll swap 5 and 7 or 5 and 9, whatever it is, for CDT. And you give us pick 3, we'll give you 5 and 7. West Coast then get 3 kids in the top 10 rather than just 2.
Exactly. Yep. And West Coast have done that in the past. They haven't done it as well as they should have. And they should have done it when they got Harley Reid. But then again, who knows? They might end up trading Harley Reid for the biggest trade ever, and it'll never ever be repeated. So they could actually be holding the cards to a faster rebuild than we think.
But they'll spike. They will spike. I
think Dersma going over there, there's a connection between Harley Reid and the Dersma family, and that could be just something that, I know the Suns have done a lot of that in the past, bring a few, mates. The Lions did it with McCluggage and Berry, best mates. So it happens, and that could be.
Well, he was on the radio this morning, CDT, and he said he'll go anywhere. And I had a chat, funny enough, I did have a chat to him a few weeks ago, and we were just talking about this sort of stuff. And he said, look, I just want to play footy. So it's out of his hands, but he'll be fine.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, Fremantle, they brought in Jug McVee. As a Melbourne supporter, I'm gutted for that. I was absolutely shattered, but the way that it happened, I'm like, don't agree with the way that he handled it and his manager handled it, to be honest. Left it way too late. They did actually move quite a bit on, which if you don't realise that they did lose a bit of experience. Brady's gone to Port Adelaide. Michael Walters was gone. Narkle retired. Nat Fyfe retired, which has probably been a year too late. They've got 7 list spots. They've only got picks 20, 47, 69, 90. So I reckon they might take 2 to the draft. They might, they might try and attract somebody who needs points and a couple of those later ones.
Look,
and I reckon, I don't know, once again, they're looking okay, but they've got gaps. We saw against what Gold Coast did against them. I just don't know, why did they not go for anybody else?
Well, this is where you can really make a strategy in this draft where you're going to get picks will disappear because of bids getting matched. You're going to get picks shifting in and out and all night. And then when clubs are done and they put the queue in the rack and they hit the pass button, they're out. All their picks come out, all their 4th, 5th, 6th round picks gone. And as that gathers momentum, those Fremantle picks at 69, 90 and 103 all come into the 50s. Now, if they've got their eye on Smokies and some mature age talent and local waffle, whatever, and clubs have always got somebody up their sleeve that they hope nobody finds out about.
Yeah.
So everyone's saying that Brody trade for pick 103, there's a chance. It's not a big one. I mean, even that pick 90 they've got is not a big chance. But if they want to pick 5 players at the draft and they're going for, say, a ruck, they never get picked early. They're always later.
They are.
Look for that. It might not be Freo that does it, but I guarantee you, and Peps, it's happened before. They've been really late picks, and they don't look late on the night. They just look like pick 61. But they started out as 114. And as all the clubs start pass, and you think, oh, yeah, draft's over, and then someone comes in and says, oh, Fremantle's made a bid on, who's that guy?
Yes, that's exactly right. Yep.
For someone who they never expected to have their name called out. This is going to happen at some point at the very, very end of the draft, because it always happens, Peps. And the picks are in their 50s, 60s and 70s, but sometimes a club will double up.
Yep.
And they'll use
I think that's something that a lot of people aren't privy to, that they might look like a 47, 69, 90, like you said.
Yeah.
But if clubs start passing early, which we think that they potentially might do probably late, maybe 3rd round-ish, that 69 might come into, maybe 47's in the right spot, but 69, 90 might come into like 70, 65, because everybody's pass. Yeah.
47 will be more like 40. Or else they'll trade it for a future pick, because 47's worth points, and it'll be worth more points then. Say Gold Coast need a few more points. Future second for that 47, which will be 40. 69 will come into 60. It'll all come in, because this in the later half of the second half of the draft, there's bids, father, sons, academies, all happening, Peps. It could, like I said, first round could go all night into Tuesday. It is outrageous. I've actually stopped putting all of the club-tied players on my board because I need to go through again before draft night and actually work out who are just no chance. They've got the right name and they've got the right club and they're nominating, but they're, not even in the top 100.
Yeah.
That's happening, mate. There's like 20 of them down there. Maybe only 10 of them get picked, but that's plus the 4 at the top. It's a really compromised draft, but luckily only say 4 in the top 20 are compromised. That's better than previous years.
Yeah, I still think there's got to be something that's been done. Well, that's another night, another day for another discussion. We'll find out in a couple of weeks when the draft is done. Hey, Geelong, Dad's Army, the other Dad's Army down the highway, who we keep thinking is going to fall off the cliff, and they didn't this year. Well, they did fall away in the last game of the year. Lost a bit of experience in Duncan and Guthrie. They've brought in James Warple. I don't think that's enough. They've only got 4 list spots. Draft picks nothing super high because they've had to use those previously on, like as an example, Bailey Smith. They had to bring him in. You've written here George Stevens was delisted, but he's one of those ones that they've said, yes, we'll bring you back on, but don't be surprised if he gets picked up by somebody else. You're thinking,
oh, Freo could pick him at pick 103.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yep.
He's the most likely. Geelong were a grand final team, so the players that they played, that's one thing, but the players that missed out on the grand final is another thing. And some of the guys who missed out on the grand final or the finals have been shown the door, or they're saying, I want to go. Like Ted Closey probably could have stayed around, but one of those players who he's already a rookie, and if he asks to leave, they just delist him because you can't trade that kind of thing. So he's probably coming home to the Gold Coast, but that's next. Peps, they'll pick night. They'll probably hang tough and pick 19. They could bundle up 19 and 40 to move up a few spots, especially if they see a player they like. They could move back a bit to get 3 picks to fill it out. And 3 picks in the second round isn't a bad thing if you're Geelong because they're bound to hit one of them, and they don't even really need much, do they?
No. Well, see, I'm the opposite. I think that they do. I think that they got really found out on grand final day, especially in that back half.
Was that injuries
regardless of if it's injuries or not, they got found out. They got run over. Their backline got demoralised. Their midfield got absolutely smashed. People will say it was a great grand final for the first half. If you're at the ground itself, it was, in my eyes, absolutely boring because there was just no the attacking side of things. It was just a defensive slaughterhouse. That's all it was.
Yeah.
And I just think that, when push comes to shove and the game opened up, they just couldn't go with Brisbane. And I'm looking at, can they go with a Gold Coast? Can they go with a Brisbane? Can they go with an up and firing Sydney? But, I'm looking at these. Can they go with Hawthorn, Doggies from an all round? The older this list gets, the less Dangerfield. He won't have another final series like he's did. It was the first time in a long time I saw Jeremy Cameron in that final series just look not susceptible, but if he doesn't get any help, he's in a bit of trouble.
Yeah,
the other guys down there, but you couldn't rely on them. So I think they've got some holes to fill, and I think they need another. Warple will assist, but I would have liked to have seen a little. Who can we move on and maybe get something in that high second round? I would have liked to have seen that. Give them a little bit more because they do bring in a lot of established talent. And I think they need to start bringing in a bit more of those kids. So if they can bring in, they've got 4 spots. They're probably going to keep George Stevens as a rookie, which I think once said they need to change that. They'll use someone at 19 and they'll probably use 14 and 60. They're 40 and 60, so there's 3 spots.
Well,
maybe keep one for the preseason draft if there's anybody that catches their eye from it. They'll let them train with them.
Well, George Stevens probably isn't going to get there.
Yeah, okay.
Everyone who can get in to try to pick him will. This is just the reality, Peps, and I'm all for it. I mean, they're stacked.
Go for it.
They've got a lot of great talent, and there's some things about their grand final review that they'll be looking at very carefully, and some players will come back who'll kind of, and some new parts of the game plan, and they are getting faster. And, I think George Stevens would be the guy who they could really use. So if they don't have him, but then again, they're always so good at recruiting. Look, this time, but 10 months ago, you said, you and I both agreed the Lions and Geelong were probably going to play in the grand final, and they did.
Yeah.
You said Sydney would drop out of the finals. I said they might just make it. You said Collingwood would get back into the finals, and they wouldn't. So
I think I didn't even pick them to make finals this year. But
if you're still convinced that Geelong's not going to be as good, and let's face it, it wouldn't surprise if they fell, but we'll see in a couple of months whether you still think that they're going to fall out.
Yeah, there's a lot of sexiness moving up. And I think someone has to drop out of that top four for that sexiness. It's not going to be Brisbane. No. All right. And I think Gold Coast will move into a top four spot. All right. And I think Sydney will move up there as well. And there's a couple others, but Rightio. Let's have a chat about your mob, because I'm going to let you fly through this one. The Gold Coast Suns.
Yep.
They played the draft beautifully. They're going for the now, because they know they needed two things. They needed some body experience, and they needed picks. They got Petrarca. They paid the farm for him, but they got those points that they need for the academy, which they're just sprouting these kids everywhere at the moment. And they did lose a lot. Buderick and Ainsworth and Fiorini and Flanders. They moved all these guys on, Malcolm Roses as well too.
Mm.
But the ones that they got rid of after that were probably wasn't too worried about.
Well, they're B graders,
but they're going to make that up with gun kids.
They're B's and C's out.
Yep.
There is a bit of a joke going around at the moment that if the Suns make the grand final next year, every single player who was on the list and in the room the day that Dimmer said that 80% of the next grand final team will be in the room, they all have to play. But I would argue that the four academy boys were in the back of the room, and five actually. So
they were in the crate at the back of the room.
But it's a massive turnover. It's 32 players since Dimmer walked into the building, and the players that are left, Peps, there's no players from foundation. No, none from second year, none from third year, one from fourth year, that's Tuke Miller. They've got a few other blokes who are around that age who they've drafted in since. There's no draftees of 2015, no draftees of 2016, draftees from 2017 when everyone said that the Gold Coast had the worst draft ever, and they got Will Powell, Charlie Ballard, and they traded pick 2 for Lockie Weller. So all the list has been built since then, and a lot of it in the last couple of years has come to this draft. They needed the points, and they traded Lukosius last year for these points. They got the first rounder out of Collingwood and the first rounder out of Port, and they had their own first rounder, and that's turned into this, and Petrarca and Jamari Hagan. So that was the bonus. This year, Matt Rowell got the Brownlow. He's a former number 1 pick. It doesn't happen very often. The number 1s don't actually win the Brownlow all that often, although they should. You can't tell. Well, Ugle-Hagen's the number 1. He's been delisted in his 5th year. And for the sole reason, not so much that his mental health is where it was a year ago, it's because they couldn't risk 800K, 900K on the possibility that he'd relapse. Whereas the Suns go, here's 250K. We're going to load the incentives in here. You kick 60 goals, that'll go up, that'll double. We win the grand final, there's another 100K. I don't know what they are, but they're in there, and they are incentives. Since they signed him, he's lost 10 kilos. He's got a six-pack again. It's just unreal. But anyway, they've moved out. They've moved out the B's and C's. They've brought in a couple of A graders, because Ugle-Hagen at his best, he could kick 50 or 60 in a year, but also be that around the ground threat, and he's very good by foot. He won a he won a TAC Cup or whatever they called it in those days with Rowley and Anderson. So they're teammates from then. They know him. So who better could you have as in place as mentors than the two blokes who were your mentors when you were in under 17 and come to the big smoke for the first time, and everyone knew you were going to be the number one pick a year on. And then he's got Jared Harbrow looking after him, who his mid-career was setting up a mentorship for Indigenous players.
Yep. And
since he's come on at the Suns as that Indigenous mentor, their Indigenous program has just gone from strength to strength, and the players are really solid in support for themselves. So I'm just thinking that this has made them from a top 8 side to a.
Oh, they are going to be dangerous, mate. Like this team. Look, they fell away in the second week of the finals. So be it. It's going to happen.
Travel.
But they're going to be awesome. They will be awesome. They'll look at that and go, how can we get better? Well, they've got a bloke in now. If he's back to how he was before he got his injury, which I still think there's a bit of a small question mark on it. But he doesn't have to be the Christian Petrarca of old. He just needs to be the Christian Petrarca who's going to give the ball to the forward line, take the pressure off the forwards, throw him into the middle if we need to, throw the body around, etc. And if you get Jamari Hugel-Hagan, and you've also got to remember, you've got big Jed Walter down there, which we forget. You've got so much upside. It's actually going to be scary. And they're setting a lot of this up if Ben King decides to pull the trigger next year and go somewhere else.
Yeah, Ben King insurance with Hugel-Hagan. The competition for spots, we've never had more than 30 players competing for those 23 spots. And we probably, when I say we, the Suns probably have 35 players. Like the new guys coming in, and we'll talk a lot more about them in our draft preview. But Dylan Patterson, you're saying where do they get him from? Rugby league, my friend. He was a rugby league.
Yep.
And there's 4 NRL teams.
You're going all right up there, aren't you? The way you're setting things up, you're doing really, really well up there, and I like it.
2 Academy boys who are from rugby league out of the 5 who are a potential to get drafted in the top 50. So they've got everything all set up. The pick swaps will all happen. I'm predicting 4 easy, probably 5 academy picks will get bid on and matched, because it's top 5, and then we're talking picks in the 30s, and clubs can go 1,167 points into deficit into next year's picks, which nobody cares about at the Suns, because there's only one player they want next year, and they can trade to get picks and do all that. That's next year. And Sydney and Brisbane will also be looking at, if they have to go into some sort of deficit, then they will.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, they're looking scary. It's going to be scarier after draft night as well too. GWS, look, freak me out on this with GWS. They got Clayton Oliver in for him to go, but he needed a fresh start. So that's great.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let Wade Dirksen go to Melbourne the year before, and then they delisted him this year. So I don't know what the point with that is, without him even playing a game. And they've said to Jake Stringer on a 2-year contract, actually, we're going to put you on the rookie. We're going to delist you, but we're going to re-rookie you.
Yeah.
Contract. So I don't know how that works. They've got 6 spots. It almost seems to me that they're looking at it going, okay, we're in a pretty good spot where we are. Bringing Oliver in is going to make it better for us. Yeah. But I think for the first time in a while, I think GWS might actually have a bit of a lull.
Mm.
And I'm looking at, because who was their best goal kicker last year? Toby Green. Okay.
He did not.
He's going to be there. Okay. Hogan had his issues again.
Yeah.
Cadman did stand up. So I just think, who's that small forward that's going to be able to take over from Toby Green?
Mm.
So I reckon they might hover where they are. So I'm interested to sort of see who they've got, what they're going to do in the draft. They'll pick up 2 nice ones. So they'll pick up at 12. They'll pick somebody else up at 35-ish. We're talking about points either way. And what they do with that last one, whether they package up 35 and 91 and 109 from a points perspective and give that over to somebody.
No point.
They've got 6 list spots
in those picks. No, Peps, I reckon they'll just take the 2, and with an option on that 3rd, depending on what everyone else does. But no, the Giants just seem like they're happy with the players that they moved on. They didn't manage to trade anybody. They are going to bring back in Connor Stone and Jake Stringer, so that's a couple of those list spots taken up again. They'll probably go to the pre-season, and they'll probably go to the mid-season and see how they go. But the big thing on the GWS Giants is they are getting older, and unlike the Suns, they do have foundation players left over. They've got a lot of players left over from those first couple of years who are all tipping into the 30s now, and none of them have had the best record with injury. They've got a lot of great young talent, and they've just managed the draft so well, but I don't know how they're going to keep on succeeding, spending all their picks on Victorian kids, and most of them want to go home a few years later. So,
when you've got like Cornelio's still there, Toby Green's still there, like that's a couple of their big ones. You got Nick Haynes, and obviously he's at another club as well too. So it's Callum Ward's off. He's pulled the pin now.
Yeah, he's pulled it. Yeah, but he was.
Yeah, they've. Where Gold Coast have brought their next phase through, I don't think GWS have yet. And what would you with what the records that they've had? So it'd be interesting to sort of see where they go as well when it comes to the draft, because they've brought someone in who could really make a massive difference to them in terms of Oliver. But from setting themselves up for this year's draft, they're like, we'll just take who's probably the best available, and we'll just continue on our way. And it's almost the same sort of thing here at Hawthorn, because they lost a bit. Like they lost Warple, they lost Bruce, Sam Frost. Frostball got the list. CJ's been moved on. They got 7 list spots, but they didn't bring anybody in. I know they were after Mitchell, but you would have thought now Hawthorn, who are a team who could strike and go to that next level, aren't doing that. And so how are they going to do that now when they haven't brought anyone in? They've got 10, 22. They're the ones to look at. Then they've got some fluffy numbers at the end. So you were saying that they might look at the rookie SSP mid-season draft for their players and not...
They have to. They can't. Well, they've got 6 picks, and the last one's 112. So if they were to even use those 6 picks, which I just find very unlikely... Let's not forget, Peps, these late picks, they do actually get transferred into the rookie draft. So
I do, yeah. Okay.
Just weirdly named, and the 2 different lists. It's stupid, but a carryover of way long ago is that the amount of picks that they get in the draft is 6, and if they only take 2, they'll take 4 picks to the rookie draft. So then they can decide how many to take. And whether it's rookie, SSP, or MSRD, I don't like it. I really think they screwed up. And let's not forget, they came 8th, Peps. They won a final, but they came 8th. And they were, one of those close wins that they had, a goal either way, and they missed the 8. Well, they can't afford.
A lot of people were saying Flagthorn too, remember? If you remember, there was a lot of people going Hawthorn flag. Well... Yeah, I saw them in a final, and
look at their All-Australian Peter Crimmins medalists and leading goal kicker, who's our age, and
maybe your age, not my age.
Gunston
playing Masters if he was my age. But yeah, I know what you mean. It's I don't know what they've done there.
We're the same age. He's not as old as us, but I reckon you were still playing when he started playing, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
He would have been
finished in 2012.
Yeah, well, he was at Adelaide in 2008 or something. So the point I'm making is they got a bit older. Bruce, that was shocking. I couldn't watch the replay.
There's not players I like to see go down with injury to finish a career. No, I don't like seeing. He had the Chris Judd. Like Judd went down with a knee. That was it. Bruce did the same thing. And he had an ugly knee. That was an ugly one as well.
He did every ligament you can.
Yeah.
I'm surprised his leg stayed attached. Jath to Melbourne we'll talk about it in a minute, but that's a loss, although they're pretty strong in the back half. So that they'll just see that as, him and Frost, well, they did a good job for him last year, not so much this year. They didn't get any better, though, did they, Peps? They didn't get any better last year.
No, they Will Day's a massive loss for them, and I don't think that they've got somebody to replace him just yet. Because I got mates they say he's their best player, but he's also the player that they would also move on because he is that unreliable to get on the park. And maybe they should have, if they were going to do something, was Will Day the player because of the issues that he's had? Maybe they should have done something in that trade period. I'd love to hear what Hawthorn's supposed to say in the chat, but
swapped the Bombers.
Could have. Hawthorn, they would have taken anyone.
Swap.
All right, let's get on to my mob, Melbourne. All right. So Stephen King basically has just come in and gone, you don't want to be here, you're gone. We're no dickhead policy, you're gone. If you're a troublemaker, you're gone. And Oliver's not there, Petrarca's not there. I wouldn't say Charlie Spargo is one either, but he's gone. Jug McVee wanted to go back from home, so be it. What I do like is that they brought in gaps, but they brought in on-field coaches. They bring in someone like a Max Heath who he's a massive unit. And if they can get him playing second fiddle to Gawn, I'm happy with that. They bring in CJ just to get that run off half back. It's Frostball 2.0 for us at Melbourne. They bring in Mychek. We didn't have a goal kicker. We brought in Mychek. Is he getting old? Yes. People don't realise, though, he didn't start his career until he was about 25-ish. So it's not he's had 7 years before that of getting his body smashed playing VFL footy. So his age is a factor, but it's not like a normal 33-year-old or whatever it is. And they bring in the captain of St Kilda, Jack Steele, who just fell out of favour. Now he's an on-field leader, so you basically get an Oliver replacement with better standards across the board. That's the way that I'll look at it.
Yeah.
And then from a picks perspective, like we've got 6 spots. We're not going to be picking anybody up from actually, Kalani Wild will be someone that they'll bring in, obviously, as a father-son.
Yeah, but he won't be drafted, Peps. He'll be because what happens is, well, if a bid comes on him very, 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 very late, they'll match it.
Yeah.
But if no bid ever comes, they won't. I don't think they'll pick him in the regular draft.
Fair enough.
What happens is for club-tied players who don't get drafted in the national draft, the clubs then say, "Oh, we still want them."
Yep.
And they nominate them, and they'll say, "We're pick 5 in the rookie draft. We're going to put that pick on Kalani White."
Yeah.
So he's guaranteed.
Same with Tony Simonia as well too. Another one of the NGA prospects that they'll pick him up as well too.
Yeah, and they can do that same thing, right? So those later picks that they've got, 66, 71. They'll either match bids with those, because when they're that late, there's no points attached. You've got to have a pick. If you don't have a pick, you're screwed. And that's where clubs will be hovering to go, oh, we could put a late bid on that, because we know that club's got no more picks left. If we put a bid on their academy player, we can get him. I will point this out, though, because you did run through that a little bit fast. Kynan Brown and Tajwa Woden, I'm a bit sentimental with the father-sons. I don't know about Kynan Brown. I thought he showed some things, but I thought Tajwa Woden showed a bit, and we could see him back around again. But it does show that Stephen King's just come in and gone, let's just sweep clean. We've got 6. We've established 6 list spots. I expect them to fill them all, but it might take until the SSP.
Yeah, so they'll pick up 7 and 8, which is 2 early picks. They picked up 3 picks for Petrarca, who's a 30-year-old.
Yep.
They didn't get anything for Oliver, but Oliver was just, we've got to move Oliver on. So to get what they did for Petrarca this year and next year, so that means they'll have 8 draft picks, 8 first-rounders over 4 years. Yeah. That's rebuilding a team. Yeah. They'll get someone at 37, and I would not be surprised if they try and do something. Now, I've got a feeling that they might. I know they've got 7 and 8. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to maybe combine 7 and 8 and go a little bit higher. and do a bit of a bigger split. I wouldn't be surprised if they did that.
Love that, wouldn't you? Especially
I would love that.
Mind.
Yeah.
And it was
if they've got somebody in mind. Yes.
Night, even after the first couple of picks have gone. Let's say the first 3 picks have gone. If the club that's willing to fall back for 7 and 8 doesn't want anyone until 7 and 8, you know what I mean? That there's 2 or 3,
Exactly right.
That kind of stuff can happen. I'd like to see that.
Now, 37.
There is also the possibility that they split one of those picks and move back to get more players, but that would have to mean that they've missed out on too.
No, I reckon they'll go 7, 8, or they'll combine them and go, I'm picking a number out here, 5 and 10.
Yeah.
They might do something on those lines. I'm really happy with the way that they're going. They're rebuilding on the fly. They've realised that they can't do what they've done over the last number of years. They are setting themselves up. I trust the recruiting team. I don't trust the list management team, and there's a difference there.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I reckon that they're doing all right. So we'll just see what happens on draft night with them as well too. They're pretty much meat and potatoes. They're going after who they need to go after. That's simple as it. There's no ifs, buts, and maybes with them. North, very similar. They bring in Spargo. They did delist a fair bit, but no. Will Phillips was the interesting one. Very, very high pick from a number of years ago. They've got not a lot of picks because they've moved them on previously. They've got 25, 26, 46. They'll probably use, 46 and 57 they might do something with, or 82, 50. But they've brought in a lot of talent.
They will trade.
Did I just need to consolidate?
25 and 26. Or one of the Suns picks in 15 and 18, and that'll be business well done. They might pick up a pick later on down the track, or a pick in the future, maybe in 2027. They will not be terribly active apart from that. They'll go with probably the 3 picks, and then but they don't need 5 18-year-olds, Peps. They need maybe 2, and maybe late in the draft, have a look at what's around, and then even then they don't have to draft them. They can go to the rookie draft. They do have some club-tied players, but they're way up the back. So yeah, I like them to go to the SSP and open it up and bring 4 prospects, train all summer. Come with
something with it.
Impress us. You've got Alistair Clarkson to impress, and he'll pick 1 or 2 of them, and that'll give them a bit of experience and some, guys who'll challenge. Getting rid of someone like Will Phillips, that's sending a message to the other guys who all got picked with first round picks. You're next. If you don't,
fair enough.
Poor guy never got played. How many coaches did he have? 5.
I think North have done their business over the last number of years. They'll be, I think you're right. I think their idea will be maybe pick up. I reckon they'll go for 2, and then they'll see who's left over. I could see a Sam Frost maybe going there, but I think he might be a little bit older. Or it depends on who still wants to keep going around, like a Ryan Burton. Would a Ryan Burton be okay at North Melbourne? I don't think he's overly, old per se.
Look, I think they need something.
They do. They do. Like a Jake Lloyd, but are they just bringing somebody in who's old when they don't need to? I don't know. I don't know. Here's a fascinating one. Port Adelaide, like new coach, Carr's come in. Funny enough, Horn Francis has hurt himself with his foot again. Breaking news today.
What was he doing?
But they did bring in Brodie. They brought in Durden. So they did do a bit of work. They did bring in Jacob Weir from Port Adelaide. They did get rid of a lot of experience. Atkins, Boak, Burton, Finlayson, Willie Rioli. Like they all retired or got delisted. They've got 5 list spots available, but because they've used picks on Horn Francis and all these other players over the previous years, they've got nothing. They've got 49 and 85, which, in my opinion, I think clubs should they have to take, because the rule you had to take 3 players at the draft. I think that the rule should be you need to take 3 players for the draft. You should pick up 3 players. They've only got 2 picks. And I think this is this the second time in the last number of years where they've only been left with a couple of picks? I know Collingwood had it a while ago, but Port Adelaide, their pick-wise have been very slim. With the chance of Butters maybe moving on, I know they'll get a plethora of picks then, but that's, to me, how are they going to get better with a lot of that experience moving on?
Well,
I don't know what they're going to do, and I don't know what their mindset behind it was.
I'll take a flyer here, Peps, and I'll say, with 2 years' worth of draft picks in the future to use,
yep,
and South Australia being so good at the under-18s, that there will be players on their radar that they've known about for a long time. They do have some NGA talent, but again, late.
But
so
they've got no picks.
The NGA,
they're going to have to do stuff, aren't they? They're going to have to trade future picks for this.
Yep, and not many clubs are. I couldn't find one single club, except maybe Geelong, trading out of the first round for a future first. But this could be that. So let's say Port sort of say, all right, we're gambling. We want to go back up the ladder. We've brought in a few players who are, fringe backup players. I believe we've got the new system, new coach, dead cat bounce. It's all happening for us. We're only here for bloody premierships. Let's go get someone in the first round from South Australia, and let's gamble our first round pick from next year.
Do you know who I could also maybe see about maybe getting rid of their first pick?
Yeah.
Western Bulldogs.
Yeah, and they do that. They're one of those.
Well, they do, because the Mailey's Butters is going to the Dogs. So they're going to need as much as they can get. And so if they could get a future first and a second for that first rounder, now mind you, it is going to be pick 16 with all the other bits and pieces in there, right?
Well, that's not for them to worry about, the Dogs.
I know.
That's for Port to worry about. But
exactly. But they might
pick for
have
pick.
a look at that.
Are Port going to even make the final? I mean, the Suns made that same gamble last year and ended up with pick 6. So it's not a bad gamble. That's a good call. The other one that I'll say is a watch for next year, because what they're saying, right, for people who are thinking what's happened with Butters, he's going into free agency, and when you go into free agency, and the club that wants to get you can get you for free agency. Well, the club that loses that player has the option of taking the compensation pick, which in this case you'd imagine it'll be somewhere in the teens, and they'll never take that, or matching the bid and then making Port making the let's say it's the Bulldogs, making them match it with picks, which is what we're talking about here, right? We're jumping that part of the story to say that they're definitely going to. Sorry, you put me off. I'm looking at the wrong side of my face. So now they're talking about trading picks, and it's going to be 3 first rounders. So the Dogs have got their own first rounder. They've got to get some other first rounders. They've got to probably trade some players next year, and even then, there's going to still be a bidding war. And the other player to remember here too is Ben King.
Yes.
So are the Gold Coast going to accept any first round pick from pick 2 to pick 19 as compo? The later it gets, the less likely, but probably not. And so we've got at least 2 players who are entering free agency who are going to have their restricted free agency bids matched. And it's on for young and old.
And then it's on for young and old who's going to pay the most. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And Collingwood could be, keeping their powder dry for a Ben King. St Kilda have already shit the bed on that one because they've just paid everything for everybody.
Well, they've got nothing. They've got no money, have they?
Well, Richmond won't have Lynch anymore, you wouldn't have thought. So there's possibilities that clubs are thinking about this. You're absolutely right. It's thinking into the future. Now it's 2 years in the future. 2 years into the future. Can't find centre. 2 years into the future, and we don't know what Tassie's gonna mean for every club. It'll mean something different.
Yeah. This mob have done it absolutely perfect. And this is when I look at what Essendon probably should have done, is what Richmond did last year. They went, what can we get for anybody? We're going to take the pain, but we know we're going to be better for it. They've done all that, and they've still got picks 3 and 4 to come through because of what they did previously. So they're still going to get up some high-end talent. And what they've lost is out of the entire list, they've really just lost Camden McIntosh, who I think got a better career than anyone would have expected. And Tyler Young is obviously going to West Coast. But outside, if you look at who they moved on, it wasn't really anything that was going to cause headaches for anybody. They've got 6 list spots. So they could then use the first 3. I reckon they're definitely going to be using the first 3, you'd say, 3, 4, and 38. And then they're going to say, all right, we still have 3 left. Who wants to train with us? So who can we look at? Or who got missed in the draft that we did have our eye on? Straight in. I think Richmond are setting themselves up nicely, if not for now. And that third, like I said, I think they'll go 3 and 4. I would not be surprised, though. They look at that 4 and say, you know what? If they get CDT at 3, they might go, okay, that 4, let's split that 4. Let's get maybe another 2 in the first round. Because they got a bucket load of them last year. Get another 3 in the first round here. It doesn't have to be the top of the food chain. You get 2 really good kids and a super kid. They're setting themselves up for the future, but also so much cash in the bank when they lose Lynch. They're setting them, they're in a really, really good position. They've done their trading nicely for what's going to come up, but also future driven as well too, because they know we don't have to spend all this money now. We can spend it 12 months' time on a super big fish. But they just need to make sure that they get their on-field side of things at a level that's going to attract a king potentially to them.
Yeah. Look, the Tigers have got heaps of talls. That's why you can see they've gotten rid of a couple of talls, 3 talls. Mate Colina, if he had debuted in the AFL, he would have been the tallest player ever. But he's a basketballer, just trying to play football with his cousin. His cousin moved to Adelaide.
Has there been any successful basketballers that have come and with a basketball background and played AFL?
Hugh Greenwood.
Don't seem to recall.
He played college basketball.
Oh, that Pendlebury bloke apparently had a basketball background.
Pendlebury.
That's been mentioned once or twice.
There's half a dozen. There's more than half a dozen. There's half the league played basketball at some point. But, Colina was playing pretty heavy-duty college ball. Yeah. And it's a big unit. So I don't think he was ever really – they persisted with him for a long time. So it shows they've grown a bit to value every draft spot, whereas when they were winning flags, it kind of felt like they didn't really respect the bottom of the list. They were getting rid of a lot of players who right now, like Marby or Chol, would have been handy for them over the past couple of years with Lynch out.
Right.
Look, Markov might be a player who they turn around and say, oh, well, you won your flag at the Pies and you can come to us.
He'd be okay at North, I reckon. He'd be one to maybe look at North from a leadership perspective. Apparently he's, like, from that side of things is really, really solid. So I wouldn't mind that.
And he's as fit as anything, and he's probably the fastest player in the comp. So in a game that's built on speed, I don't know why Collingwood's let him go. The Suns had to let him go because of the stupid rules about you have to delist 3 players or something, and there's a rule for that, but there's not a rule for you have to pick 3 back.
It should be that, but I think
he just gets squeezed out each time because his disposal's a bit shabby. But when you're running that fast, I mean, I think the only guy who Gary Rowan was the only one who ran faster than him with the football.
I know one other bloke who ran faster than both of them. Cert number 6 for the East Keilor Football Club. Dominated. Oh. Speed wobbles. I was like the Flash. Number 6. I didn't even know.
You didn't shank it when you got the...
Oh, no, I shanked it. Oh, I brought rain down with the weight I used to kick it. All right, Richmond are in a good spot. Now, this is a fascinating club because they did all their work beforehand. Let's talk about St Kilda. We know who they brought in, right? They're going balls out. DeConing, Flanders, Liam Ryan, Silvani. Solid. It's interesting. I'll look at it and go solid. Lee Kalia, we won't mention that. But they've got nothing from a draft perspective because they've had to use it all to bring everybody in. They've got no money, so the group that they've got now has to be the one that they're going for now, and there's no way that they're going to be able to set themselves up for a Ben King unless they traded out their captain because they had no money left.
The two King twins in the forward line would be a disaster. All of their junior coaches knew it. Anyone who has coached them knows it. I've said this until I got blue in the face. I'm already red enough in the face. A bit of sunburn I got yesterday, and it's bloody 30 degrees here. No, that dream is over. Even if Ben wants to return to Victoria, which I don't think he will, I get the feeling that there's a monster contract for him from the Suns coming up, and that it'll get announced sometime in the preseason. But it's nice to wonder. St Kilda doesn't really have the cash to do that. I mean,
they got nothing. They got nothing
unless they trade somebody. I mean, some of these guys they've got rid of, like Zach Jones, would have been on something, or because to get a player away from his contract ended, it would have been worth something.
But he was part of that. He was part of that Hanbury type of realm.
Yeah,
where I think they paid them a bit, but they never really did anything.
Yeah, well,
same with Zane Cordy. He was part of that as well too.
Jimmy
Webster might free up. Jack Steele will free up some money as well. So they'll free up a little bit of cash.
Yeah, Schoenmaker is a good little guy, but he had this funny little rookie year where he was the oldest kid in the Tassie under-18s team, and had the proof of age card, and he went off when they were in camp and he bought the booze back, and they all got busted on the piss.
Well, I remember that.
He was the one who got scapegoated.
He copped it,
and they gave him a 10-month suspension from youth footy, which basically they thought meant that he was going to be out of it until the next year. Yeah. But he actually went and played senior footy in the TSL and killed it, and then made it into the Allies under-18s, and the Allies just went, well, we don't care if you got suspended on your bloody camp.
Mm-hmm.
Win the thing. He went and won the thing with them because that was the year the Allies were awesome.
Won it, I remember that.
He can kick the ball 60 metres onto the chest of someone sprinting as fast as they can in any direction.
So he could be one of those ones that clubs go, he can play. He was just maybe in the wrong environment, maybe the wrong game plan, because that's my thing with St Kilda. Their game plan is, no matter how much talent they've got, is Ross willing to open it up? And I don't know if he will. I don't know if he ever will.
I know. He's so boring, but it works. And it only works so much. I mean, you can only flog a dead horse. But, geez, if he tweaks something in his game plan that either allows the team to, get on runs of points, and so if he can have a dour quarter where he holds, it's nil-all draw, and then open the game up, that's what he's trying to do. But it's when the opposition coaches pick him apart and they kick 4 goals, and he's like, well, that was meant to be a 0-goal quarter, and it's a 4-goal quarter, so I'm going to crunch down even more, and that's when they get down by 10 goals. So it's obvious. It's obvious what he's going to do, but maybe not. Maybe next year he's got the
Max King is a big one. If he gets back on the park, great. If he doesn't, it's going to be massively hard. Hey, Sydney, talk about a club who just went, you know what, we are going to do this a little bit differently. We're going to just see what and then we're going to see, and then we're going to go in horde and force right at the end. We're going to move people on. So they moved on Haywood. We know about that one. They moved on Florent. We know about that one. But they also got rid of a bit of experience as well too. Robbie Fox is gone. Rampy's gone. Lloyd is gone as well too.
He'll be back.
Kirk has been moved on. They did bring in Curnow, Roses and Sarong. So 3 Not Kerno, obviously, but the other two will fit in there some way. But they've got some movement with their picks as well too, 31, 32 and 42. So they've gone, we're going now.
No, forget about that. Forget about that. They have also academy. Their academy players are awesome. They're just not top of the draft. Their academy players are rising fast.
Max King, Harry Kyle, these guys.
First round, but back of the first round.
Yep.
So
and then Lockie Cameron late at the end.
In the 20s, but they're going to need those picks. In fact, that isn't even right. They've got picks in the 20s. I don't know how I got that one wrong.
It doesn't matter.
But
it's in the 20s. It doesn't. It's in the 20s. It's okay.
But forget about it, mate. They can't see what we can see. And they're going to use all of those picks on their academy boys, guaranteed.
Yep. That's simple as that. That's their plan. Academy kids. Bring in the big boys. Use the points on kids. Absolutely. All right. Into the W's. Last couple to go. West Coast, Starcevic and Tyler Young in. Now, they lost a lot from an experience perspective, and a lot of it was retired, not delisted. So these are moves that maybe should have been done a year or two ago with a couple of these, or maybe, okay, we know that they're getting in, but I think because they had Simpson had them for so long, I reckon they didn't move him on fast enough. They didn't move the list on fast enough. McWalter's copped the entire lot. He needs freshness to come in. They bring in Starcevic and Young, so they're going to play straight away, which is great. They have got a lot of experience. They've got to find a new captain, speed off the halfback with Hunt. They did move on Petrocelli. McGovern due to concussions. Liam Ryan's gone. Sheed's gone. So a lot of premiership stars. They've got 1 and 2, which we know that they'll use. Could they split a 13? Potentially.
Well, maybe they trade 2.
Maybe they trade 2 if they don't want a CDT.
That's right.
And they go, all right, we don't want him. We've got Dersma. That's the one that we wanted.
Yep.
We might split that for a 5 and 10, for a 7. Or, sorry, a 2 for a 5 and something else or whatever. I don't know. I'm making something up from a club perspective. They could do that. They could, but they've got 6 list spots to fill. So,
well, the Bombers
they've moved stuff. The way I read it is they've moved players on because they had to, but they need to bring talent in. You don't want to bring older talent in, so they want to bring in as much quality as they can.
There's a young.
I'll definitely do that for the first 2, but do they maybe split that second one, like you said, and go first 3? I reckon there's going to be a lot more splitting on the night than we've ever seen.
Well, you can't always do it before the deadline, and the deadline was last what's today, the 10th? So it was last Friday.
Yes, last Friday. Yep.
The other deadline is the nomination deadline. So if Dustin Martin decides tomorrow afternoon that he's going to call his manager from Darwin and say, "Oh, I just had a bit of a run around with the NT boys, and look, gearing up for the weekend, and I'm feeling pretty good. What about you chuck my name in quietly, but put my name in as a Justin Martin."
Dustin Martin. It's French. Dustin Martin.
And David Martinos. And so last minute nominations happen. So there's certain things that we don't really know how the machinations will work. Players have been delisted and are thinking, will I retire? But guys have been retired for a year, whatever. The thing that I was going to say was you've still got quite a few flag players playing for the Eagles, and I don't think any of those guys will see the day that the Eagles make it back to the finals, even if the finals are 10 teams now. So whatever they do, it's building, rebuilding, and so more picks is better for them. Pick 1 is awesome for them because they don't. They want a ruck, but they can get a ruck later. But they really do want that Dersma type, and I'm looking at them doing all sorts of things in the hour before pick 1. Yeah,
I think there's going to be some movement, some shaking there, especially now. This last mob, the Western Bulldogs, they've brought in Connor Budrick. All right, they've moved a lot on. DeRay, Johannesson, Jones, Poulter, Scott, Ugle-Hagan, all right? So they've moved a lot. Their picks are okay. They've got 14, but then after that is 33, 53, 70. They're planning for the future. That's the only way that I can see that. They've got 5 list spots. They'll probably take 2 at the draft.
Yep, and one of them will be a very, very, very familiar name because his brother and his father.
Not another Darcy.
Will Darcy. He's not going to be called out any time early in the draft, but he's got the name and he's got they won't not pick him. So with that number 53, he's probably got his name on it. If he doesn't get bid on, it could be pick 70. So they've got a little ace up their sleeves, little Darcy up their sleeves.
And, you know, the doggies are in a position. I still feel, though, that they are one big key back short, and why they didn't take the punt on Stephen May absolutely staggers me. Like, he was the perfect person for what they needed.
Yeah.
Because they're doing everything right at the front of the footy, but they're not doing anything right in the back of the footy, and he's one that they probably should have gone for.
It's too late.
Unless they're looking at from an SSP or that preseason draft to go, all right, this is somebody that we're going to bring on down back.
Maybe Frost.
Yeah, but he's not a fullback.
Yeah, I know.
He's not a fullback. So I don't know. They need help down there. And for whatever reason, they're so negligent in doing something about it. But they're putting their eggs in the basket, and money-wise, they need to bring in some young kids too, to not pay them much, so that they have to pay them more in the future. Because if they want to bring in a Butters, you're not going to get him cheap.
They've got a lot of big contracts there.
They have.
And they've moved on one of them. So would have been on less and less.
Yeah, Johannesson would have been. DeRay would have been on a little bit.
Yeah.
But you know what? These days, you know, you look at an $800,000 contract is like 5% of your total player payments these days. So it's not a massive amount.
I know a lot of people are losing their minds over, you know, St Kilda mustn't have a salary cap. People don't understand that the salary cap these days is north of 18 million and it goes up every year. And it was right down to like 10.5 million in 2020 because of COVID. Yep. And so there's been money flooding in, but this year St Kilda could just say, all right, Nas, we'll give you $4 million over 2 years. Just stay and see what we can do over 48 months. Yep. 24 months. Yep. And then there'll be another bloody 20 million there for you.
Fascinated to see what happens with him too. Fascinated. All these players that have burst out years, but they can continue it now that the pressure's really on them.
Well, look, if you don't improve in the next 2 years, no matter who you are, you're going to have players going to Tassie who you don't want to go to Tassie. There are going to be clubs who will be like, oh, you know what, there's this guy who we like. He's, you know, one of the first picked, but we'll let him go because he kind of wants to, and we've got someone to replace him. So that the clubs that aren't letting go players that they really want to keep are the ones that are going to be up the top end of the table, and the ones down the bottom aren't going to be able to stop anyone from walking, because the big thing about Tasmania coming in, Peps, and it's bigger than all their concessions, is that if you're a player, doesn't matter if you're a free agent that year or not, if you're a player out of contract in the draft before their first year, you're a free agent to them.
Ooh.
And they just nominate you.
And you're gone.
They've got an extra $2 million signing bonus, so you can't match the money there. Yep. And if you try to match the money, it's going to screw you the other way around. So they're going to have a bloody good squad, whether or not they have all of their ducks in a row, lined up in a row. And it seems like it's going to be all chaos like the Suns was.
It's going to be crazy. I love it.
Yeah, and the Suns didn't have their stadium. It's all they've planned for a GWS type build, and they're getting a Suns type.
Do you know the best thing about this is, Tommy? We said before we started, we'll go to 45 minutes, we'll pound through this really quickly, we've got another hour and a half. We never stick to our time frames. But when you've got 18 clubs to go through and you're trying to look at what they've done and where they need to be, you can't just round out. And I think this is the thing. People look at oh, they did this in the trade period, they didn't get anything for him. But it's not just about who they got in and who they lost. They don't understand the value of picks for now and also into that future as well too, and that things can be traded. We've seen already pick. So I think this is why this is important to look at the entire package and not just look at names, because of what's coming up and the way that these drafts are compromised to a degree. It's not all about who you bring in. It's a lot about the total numbers that you bring in as well too. And that's, when we look back after the draft is done, because there's been so many phantom drafts, we're not going to worry about a phantom draft, etc. But what we'll look at is, okay, did they get the right ones? Did they win from draft night to now? Did they win? Yes, they did. I can see them getting better. No, they didn't do anything. They didn't do anything draft night. They didn't do anything in the trade period. I don't see how they're going to get better. That's what I'm fascinated for.
Look, you can even look at the Petrarca trade. Like Melbourne fans were like, oh, yes, if we had to get rid of him, it was maximum points. We got 3 first-rounders. The Suns fans are sitting around going, are we happy? And then when you look at it, it's 3. There's a couple of little weeds around there, but we'll forget about them. It's 3 first-rounders to the Ds. It's 2 first-rounders that the Suns were never going to pick, never going to use, and 1 in the future that, you can trade your future first. It's probably going to be pick 18.
Oh, he's gone early. He's gone early.
The Ds will pick 18 by the time, it's going to be in the teens. The Ds gave back 3 seconds. So it wasn't the Suns gave up 3 firsts for no reward. They got back all those picks for the 3 rounders.
Yeah. So you got something out of it, and so did we. That's a win-win. I'm happy with that. Yeah. But if Melbourne go ahead and pick up 2 guns this year, I can say, well, you lose 1 30-year-old, but you pick in 2 18-year-olds. There's so many clubs. You look at Richmond, you look at West Coast, that's what we're going to look at and go, you know what? They are going to be awesome.
And their picks the Suns weren't going to use. So it's win-win, and that's how you can only look at those things when they wash out. So when there's future picks involved, points involved. I mean, we can't cover everything, but I've listened to dozens of podcasts, in and around the draft. They're all talking about the same thing.
Yeah, they're all with just a different cover on it. We try to do something a little bit different, whether you like it or not. That's fine. That's why it's all about choice, bro.
Absolutely.
All right. So it's all about choice. Rightio. So that pretty much covers it for tonight. We are going to be back a little bit later once the draft has all been done, and then we're going to sit back and go, all right, let's put this in perspective. And then we'll go, did they win? Did they succeed? Etc. Because I think that's massively important that we look at everything in totality. But on behalf of the host with the most, Chris Pepper, and the amazing draft doctor, the draft professor, Tommy Rampaging Roker, we'll see you very shortly. And I really hope your club does something. Teams are starting to get back in the preseason. I'd head down and have a bit of a look. More importantly, take care to Jungle out there. And hey, Tommy, quick question for you. How do you like your trade and points analysis?
Just like Jamara likes it. From Noah Anderson on the right forward flank, lace out.
All right. Have a great night, listeners, viewers, and everybody. And just stay awesome.